The night the insult was spoken, the wind stopped moving. In the ancient village of Cumorah, where red earth kissed bare feet and tall baobab trees watched over generations, silence was never normal. Even at night, something always spoke: the crickets, the river, the spirits in the leaves. But on that night, when the moon hung low and yellow like a watching eye, the world held its breath. Old Mama Zawadi sat near the fire outside her clay house. The fire crackled softly, throwing orange light on her dark skin, carved by years of sun, loss, and wisdom. She was a black woman known across the land, not loud, not proud, but deep like the roots of the Iroko tree. Elders respected her. Hunters greeted her carefully. Even the village king listened when she spoke, though she never raised her voice. Mama Zawadi was more than a widow. She was more than a mother-in-law. She was a woman tied to old things. The drums from the far side of the village beat slowly, dum, 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 calling ancestors to listen. The wind carried the smell of roasted yam and wood smoke. Children laughed in distant compounds. Life moved gently. Then footsteps came. Fast. Angry. Nalia, Mama Zawadi's daughter-in-law, burst into the open space like fire without warning. Her fine clothes shimmered with foreign colors. Gold rings flashed on her fingers. Her eyes were sharp, filled with pride and heat. She had come from the town beyond the savannah, where concrete replaced earth and respect was bought, not earned. Behind her followed Kato, Mama Zawadi's son. His head was lowered. His shoulders were heavy. "What is this nonsense?" Nalia shouted, her voice cutting the night. "I am tired of this backward place." Several villagers turned. Elders stopped talking. Even the drums slowed. Mama Zawadi lifted her eyes slowly. The firelight danced in them. She said nothing. Nalia pointed at the clay house, at the fire, at the old woman. "I asked for clean water. I asked for help. And this is what I get. Silence. Dote. Is there no one in charge here?" Her voice grew louder. "Dangerous. I want to speak to the manager." Nalia yelled, using a strange word she loved. "Who runs this place? Who is responsible?" The wind died completely. Kato whispered, "Nalia, please, this is my mother." Mama Zawadi stood up. The fire snapped loudly as if it had ears. She did not shout. She did not insult. She simply looked at Nalia, long and deep, like someone looking through time. "Daughter," Mama Zawadi said softly, "this land has no manager." Nalia laughed, sharp and cruel. "Of course it doesn't. That is the problem." Somewhere in the forest, an owl cried. Once. Then stopped. Elder Bako, leaning on his staff, stepped forward. "Young woman," he warned, "choose your words. This is sacred ground." Nalia waved her hand. "Sacred. I see mud and old people afraid of change." That was when the fire bent sideways, though there was no wind. Mama Zawadi felt it first, a cold touch on her spine. The ancestors had stirred. Long ago, before Nalia was born, before Cumorah had a name, Mama Zawadi had been chosen. On the night her blood first touched the earth as a girl, the spirits had whispered to her. She had learned to listen, to dreams, to shadows, to the space between drumbeats. She had buried a husband. She had raised a son. She had swallowed pain and turned it into patience. But disrespect. Disrespect was a seed that grew thorns. Mama Zawadi spoke again, still calm. "You are hungry. Anger has eaten you. Sit." "I will not sit," Nalia snapped. "I will not bow to old village tricks." A low rumble came from the earth, so soft many thought it was imagination. Kato looked up, fear filling his eyes. "Mother." Mama Zawadi raised a hand. He fell silent. "Very well," she said. "If you wish to speak to who manages this land." She stepped closer to the fire. Sparks flew upward like tiny spirits. "Then listen carefully." The drums stopped. Even the river beyond the trees seemed to pause. "This village is managed by memory," Mama Zawadi said. "By blood. By ancestors who do not sleep." Nalia rolled her eyes. "I'm done with this madness." She turned to leave. That was when the night changed. A cold wind rushed in from the forest, circling the clearing. The fire flared high, glowing blue for one breath. Shadows stretched too long. Faces of ancestors appeared in smoke, warriors with spears, queens with braided crowns, hunters with empty eyes. Nalia froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Mama Zawadi's voice lowered, heavy as stone. Words spoken in pride do not vanish. They travel. The owl cried again. 3 times. Elder Bako fell to his knees. Spirits have heard, he whispered. The wind carried Nalia's earlier words, manager, manager, twisting them, mocking them. Kato reached for his wife, but his hand passed through cold air. Mama Zawadi turned away from the fire and faced the darkness beyond the trees. Ancestors, she murmured, I did not call you, but you have come. A voice answered, not loud, not clear, but felt in bones. Balance has been broken. Nalia's legs began to shake. Tears filled her eyes. What is happening? She whispered. Mama Zawadi did not answer. The forest answered instead. From deep within, something ancient shifted. Leaves rustled without wind. Drums echoed though no hands touched them. A path of faint glowing light appeared, leading from the village toward the mountains where no one went after dark. Mama Zawadi finally looked back at Nalia. Her eyes were sad now. You wanted to speak to the one in charge, she said. Your request has been accepted. The light pulsed once. Far away, thunder growled, though the sky was clear. And in that moment, the village of Kumora knew. This was only the beginning. By morning, the village of Kumora no longer felt the same. The sun rose slowly over the savannah, but its light was weak, as if afraid. A thin grey mist clung to the ground. The birds that usually sang at dawn were silent. Even the goats refused to leave their pens. People whispered as they moved. Women tied their wrappers tighter. Hunters checked their spears twice. Elders gathered under the great baobab tree, their faces dark with worry. The path of glowing light from the night before was gone, but its memory remained like a scar on the earth. Inside Mama Zawadi's compound, Nalia sat on a low stool. Her fine clothes were wrinkled. Her eyes were red from crying. She had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw shadows moving without bodies and heard drums beating from under the ground. This is your fault, she muttered, staring at the dirt. Kato stood near the doorway, torn between anger and fear. You should not have spoken that way to my mother, he said quietly. You do not understand this land. Nalia laughed bitterly. Your land threatened me. Mama Zawadi was outside, grinding herbs with slow, careful movements. Her face showed no anger, only deep concern. She knew the spirits had answered not because she wanted revenge, but because balance had been disturbed. And spirits never ignored broken balance. Elder Bako arrived with 2 other elders. Their staffs tapped the ground in the same rhythm as a heartbeat. Mama Zawadi, Bako said, bowing slightly, the ancestors are restless. She nodded. I felt them before the drums stopped last night. Bako turned his eyes toward Nalia. The words of pride called them. Nalia stood up sharply. So what now? Will you scare me with more stories? A sudden wind slammed the compound gate shut. No one spoke. Mama Zawadi wiped her hands and faced Nalia. There is a journey you must take. A journey? Nalia scoffed, but her voice trembled. I am not going anywhere. You already have, Mama Zawadi replied. The elders exchanged glances. Bako cleared his throat. At sunset, the path of answering will open again. It leads to the mountain of echoes. Kato's eyes widened. No one walks there. That place is forbidden. Because truth lives there, Bako said. And truth burns those who lie to themselves. Nalia crossed her arms. This is ridiculous. As if answering her, a deep drumbeat rolled across the land. Boom, from nowhere and everywhere. Nalia's knees weakened. Mama Zawadi placed a small leather pouch into Nalia's hand. It was warm. This will not protect you, she said. It will only remind you to listen. Listen to what? Nalia snapped. to silence. The rest of the day passed like a funeral. Clouds gathered though there was no rain. Children were pulled indoors. Hunters returned early, claiming the forest had watched them. As sunset approached, the air grew heavy. The same glowing path slowly appeared again, cutting through the grass, leading toward the distant mountains where dark rocks rose like teeth. The ancestors had opened the road. Nalia shook her head violently. I refuse. The ground beneath her feet cracked softly. Cato grabbed her hand. Nalia, please. Do not fight this. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw fear. Real fear. When the first star appeared, the path pulsed brighter. Mama Zawadi spoke one last time. Go with humility, or go with pain. The choice is still yours. Tears ran down Nalia's face. Pride battled fear inside her chest. Finally, with shaking legs, she stepped onto the glowing path. The air changed instantly. Each step felt heavier than the last. Sounds from the village faded. Soon, only the sound of her breathing and distant drums remained. The savannah gave way to thick forest. Trees twisted unnaturally, their roots rising like snakes. Faces seemed to form in the bark, watching her pass. You are not welcome, the forest whispered. Nalia covered her ears and kept walking. Night fell fully as she reached the riverlands. The water flowed backward, glowing faintly. On the far bank stood a tall figure wrapped in animal skins, a hunter spirit, eyes white like the moon. Why do you walk this path? The spirit asked, voice echoing like hollow wood. Nalia swallowed hard. I was told to. The spirit raised a spear made of bone. That is not an answer. Her chest burned. For the first time, words failed her. I wanted respect, she finally whispered. I wanted control. The spirit stepped aside. Then walk on. You will learn the cost. The mountains loomed ahead. Wind screamed between the rocks like crying children. Drums grew louder with every step. Nalia's feet bled, but the path did not allow her to stop. At the mountain gate, two massive stone figures blocked the way, ancient warriors with cracked faces and empty eyes. They spoke together. Only truth opens this gate. Nalia fell to her knees. Memories flooded her mind, mocking elders, laughing at tradition, treating Cato's people as servants. Shame wrapped around her like chains. I thought money made me greater, she cried. I thought shouting made me powerful. The stone warriors slowly stepped aside. The gate opened. As Nalia entered the mountain, the drums stopped suddenly. Inside, something waited. Something that would not be kind. Inside the mountain, the air was cold and old. Nalia stepped forward slowly. Each footstep echoed, not just with sound, but with memory. The walls of the passage glowed faintly, carved with symbols of suns, rivers, spears, and crying eyes. Water dripped from above like slow tears. The glowing path faded behind her. There was no turning back. As she walked deeper, whispers followed her. Some were soft. Some were angry. Some sounded like laughter without joy. You thought you were above us. You spoke without listening. Pride walks faster than wisdom. Nalia pressed her hands to her ears, but the voices came from inside her chest. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Firelight appeared from nowhere, revealing a circle of bones laid carefully on the ground. Human bones, animal bones, ancient and clean. In the center stood a tall mirror made of dark stone, its surface smooth and shining like still water. The drums returned, slow and heavy. Dum, dum, dum. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was neither man nor woman, neither young nor old. Its skin looked like cracked earth. Its eyes burned like embers. I am Kumori, keeper of echoes, the being said. You asked to speak to the one in charge. Nalia's heart raced. I didn't mean. Silence, Kumori commanded gently. The drums stopped. You crossed the path. You passed the guardians. Now you must face yourself. Kumori pointed to the mirror. Look. Nalia stood up slowly and faced the mirror. At first, she saw her reflection as she remembered herself. Fine clothes, proud posture, sharp eyes. Then the mirror changed. She saw herself shouting at elders, turning away from greetings, rolling her eyes at tradition. She saw Kato standing behind her, shrinking, ashamed. "No," she whispered. The mirror did not stop. It showed her mocking Mama Zawadi in her heart, even before the words were spoken. It showed her desire to control, to be above others, to never bow. Tears streamed down her face. "Why are you showing me this?" she cried. Kumari's voice softened. "Because the ancestors heard your voice, but they also heard your heart." The bones around the mirror began to glow. One by one, spirits rose from them, ancestors in ancient clothing, queens with beaded crowns, warriors holding rusted blades, mothers carrying invisible children. They formed a circle. An old queen stepped forward. "We built this land with humility." A hunter followed. "We protected it with respect." A mother spirit spoke next. "And we passed it on with patience." They turned their glowing eyes on Nalia. "What did you bring?" they asked together. Nalia fell to the ground. "Nothing but noise," she sobbed. The mirror changed again. Now it showed another future. A dark one. It showed Nalia returning home unchanged, still proud, still loud. It showed sickness following her. It showed loneliness. It showed Kato walking away. "Is this my punishment?" Nalia whispered. "No," Kumari replied. "This is your warning." The keeper raised a hand. The mirror cracked, splitting into 3 paths of light on the ground. "Choose," Kumari said. "The path of pride. Walk away unchanged. You will leave this mountain, but never find peace. The path of fear. Beg for forgiveness with your mouth, but not your heart. You will live, but the spirits will watch you closely. The path of humility. Return empty, broken, and willing to learn." Nalia looked at the paths. The path of pride glowed bright and wide. The path of fear flickered. The path of humility was narrow, dim, and painful to look at. She thought of Mama Zawadi's calm eyes. Of Kato's silence. Of the way the village fire bent when she spoke. Slowly, painfully, she crawled toward the narrow path. "I choose to be small," she said. "I choose to learn." The spirits murmured. The ground shook. The bones rattled loudly, then sank into the earth. Kumari nodded once. "Then your true test begins." The mountain roared. The walls cracked open, revealing a deep descent filled with darkness and wind. "This path will strip you," Kumari said. "Not of life, but of lies." Nalia stood, wiping her tears. Fear still lived in her chest, but something new stood beside it, understanding. As she stepped into the darkness, Kumari spoke one last time. "Humility does not end suffering. It gives it meaning." The darkness swallowed her. Above the mountain, clouds twisted violently. Thunder rolled across the land. Back in Camorra, Mama Zawadi woke suddenly from her mat. She felt pain in her chest, but also hope. "The turning has begun," she whispered. Far away, deep within the mountain, Nalia screamed, not from pain, but from truth. Darkness wrapped around Nalia like a living thing. The narrow path inside the mountain sloped downward, steep and cold. Wind rushed past her ears, carrying cries that sounded like children and old men at the same time. The stone beneath her feet was sharp, cutting through her sandals and into her skin. Every step hurt. Every step remembered. The darkness began to shape itself into visions. She saw herself as a child, shouting at her own mother. She saw doors closing, friends turning away. Each memory struck her like a whip. "Enough." Nalia cried. "I understand." The wind answered with laughter. "You understand pain," it whispered. "But do you understand responsibility?" The path ended suddenly in a wide cavern lit by red fire. In the center stood a massive calabash bowl, cracked and ancient. Around it sat 3 figures, mythical beings with masks carved from wood and bone. Their eyes glowed like coals behind the masks. The first mask spoke. "I am hunger." The second mask spoke. "I am loss." The third mask spoke. "I am memory." They rose together. "You chose humility," memory said. "Now humility will choose you." Hunger stepped forward. The cavern changed. Tables appeared, filled with food, roasted meat, sweet fruits, golden bread. The smell made Nalia's stomach twist painfully. Eat, Hunger said. You have suffered enough. Nalia reached forward, then stopped. She remembered Mama Zawadi sharing her last bowl with a stranger. She remembered the village children eating together from one pot. Slowly, she pulled her hand back. I will not take what is not earned. The food vanished. Hunger bowed and stepped aside. Loss moved next. The cavern shifted again. Nalia now stood in a beautiful house made of glass and light. Fine clothes hung on the walls. Jewels glittered. People bowed as she walked past. This can still be yours, Loss said softly. Just turn back. Forget the old woman. Forget the village. Nalia's heart ached. Pride whispered to her. But then she saw Kato's eyes again, quiet, wounded. She shook her head. If I keep this, I lose myself. The house shattered like smoke. Loss stepped back. Then memory approached. The cavern filled with people, elders, villagers, ancestors. Mama Zawadi stood among them. They all stared silently. Memory's voice grew heavy. Kneel. Nalia dropped to her knees. You will return, Memory said, but not as you were. When they test you, will you defend your pride, or your growth? I don't know, Nalia whispered. I am afraid. Memory removed its mask. Behind it was Mama Zawadi's face, younger, fierce, glowing with spirit light. Good, she said. Fear keeps the door open. The cavern shook violently. The calabash bowl cracked open. Inside was thick, dark water that reflected Nalia's face. Not proud, not broken, but changing. Drink, Memory commanded. Nalia hesitated, then drank. The water burned like fire. She screamed as memories not her own flooded her. Ancestors walking long roads, women bending under hardship, men dying to protect land, mothers forgiving again and again. She collapsed. When she woke, the cavern was gone. She lay at the foot of the mountain as dawn broke. Her clothes were torn. Her body ached. But her eyes were different. She stood slowly and began walking back toward Kumora. Each step felt heavier, not with pain, but with purpose. As she entered the forest, the trees whispered differently now. She listened. She changed. But the trial was not finished. At the edge of the village, Nalia saw smoke rising. Shouting filled the air. She ran forward and froze. Villagers stood in a circle. In the center, Mama Zawadi knelt on the ground. Elder Bako stood beside her, face tense. Kato argued loudly with two warriors. What is happening? Nalia cried. The crowd turned. Gasps rose. She has returned, someone whispered. Elder Bako spoke. The ancestors demand balance. While you walked the mountain, accusation fell upon Mama Zawadi. Nalia's chest tightened. Accusation of what? Of calling spirits for revenge, Bako said. Some say she wanted harm. Mama Zawadi looked up. Her eyes met Nalia's, calm, accepting. I will not deny the ancestors, Mama Zawadi said. If they judge me, I accept. Nalia stepped forward, shaking. This was the test Memory warned her about. She could stay silent. She could protect herself. Or she could speak truth. She knelt beside Mama Zawadi. This is my fault, Nalia said loudly. I broke balance. I spoke with pride. She did not call the spirits. I did. The village gasped. Kato stared at her. Nalia bowed low, forehead touching the dirt. If punishment must come, let it come to me. The wind rose suddenly. The drums began again, but this time, steady and calm. Mama Zawadi placed a hand on Nalia's head. The ancestors were listening. The wind grew stronger. Dust lifted from the ground and spun around the circle of villagers. The drums beat louder, not fast, not slow, but firm, like a heart that refused to stop. Dum, dum, dum. Nalia stayed on her knees. Her forehead pressed into the earth. She did not move. She did not cry out. For the first time in her life, She waited without demanding. Mama Zawadi closed her eyes. Elder Bako raised his staff. Ancestors, he called, his voice shaking, you have heard the confession. Show us your will. The sky darkened suddenly. Clouds rolled in from every direction, heavy and low. Thunder spoke once, deep and warning. The warriors stepped back. Even the bravest hunters felt fear crawl into their bones. Then the fire in the center of the circle changed color. It turned white. A gasp rose from the people. White fire meant only one thing: judgment. From the fire, shapes began to rise, figures made of smoke and light. Kings with crowns of gold and dust. Queens with long braids glowing like moonlight. Warriors holding spears made of wind. Mothers with eyes full of sorrow and strength. The ancestors had arrived. Everyone fell to the ground. Everyone except Nalia. She lifted her head slowly, tears running down her face. Her voice trembled, but it did not break. I am here, she said. I am ready. A tall ancestor stepped forward. His voice sounded like many voices together. Why did you shout for power in a land built on respect? Nalia swallowed. Because I was empty inside. I thought loud words could fill me. Another ancestor spoke, a woman with eyes like fire. Why did you insult the mother of the house? Because I forgot that age is wisdom, Nalia answered. And I forgot how to bow. The ancestors murmured. Then silence fell. A shadow moved behind them. Something heavier. Older. From the fire rose Kumori, the keeper of echoes. The bones in the earth rattled softly as Kumori spoke. This woman walked the mountain, Kumori said. She faced hunger, loss, and memory. She chose humility. Kumori turned toward Mama Zawadi. And you, daughter of patience, why did you not stop this path? Mama Zawadi opened her eyes. Because some lessons must be walked, not taught. The ancestors nodded. Thunder cracked loudly. Lightning split the sky, striking the earth just outside the village. The ground shook. Children screamed. The river roared. This was the climax, the moment where balance would either be restored or broken forever. Kumori raised one hand. Balance demands payment, the keeper said. Pride called us. Truth answered. Now, choose the cost. The ancestors turned toward Nalia. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. You may leave this village, the tall ancestor said. Lose your husband. Lose your place. Live, but alone. Another ancestor spoke. Or you may stay, but carry the weight of service. You will kneel before those you once looked down on. Nalia did not hesitate. I will stay, she said. And I will serve. A murmur of shock ran through the village. Kato lifted his head, eyes wide. Kumori studied Nalia carefully. Service is not words. It is years. I know, Nalia replied. I am no longer afraid of being small. The white fire roared upward. The ancestors lifted their hands. A powerful wind rushed through the village, bending trees, shaking roofs. Drums beat wildly now, faster, louder, filling the air with power. Then, silence. The fire returned to normal. The sky cleared. The ancestors faded like morning mist. Only Kumori remained for one breath longer. Let it be known, Kumori said, that humility restored what pride broke. With that, Kumori vanished. The village stood frozen. Then Mama Zawadi rose slowly and helped Nalia to her feet. You chose well, she said softly. Nalia bowed deeply. Not quickly. Not for show. Her forehead touched the earth again. I am ready to learn, she whispered. Kato stepped forward, tears on his face. He took her hands gently, not as an owner, not as a master, but as a partner. That night, no one slept. A feast was prepared, not of celebration, but of reconciliation. Drums played stories instead of songs. Elders spoke long into the firelight. The wind carried peace again. But Nalia did not sit with the honored guests. She served water. She served food. She listened. And as she worked, something inside her healed. Yet the story was not finished. Because true change is not proven in one night. It is proven over time. And the ancestors were still watching. Years passed, not in noise, but in rhythm. The village of Cumorah changed slowly, like a river carving stone. The sun still rose over the savannah. The drums still spoke at night. The spirits still moved through wind and fire. But something deeper had shifted. Nalia remained. Many thought she would leave once the fear faded. Many waited for her pride to return. But seasons came and went, and she stayed. She rose before dawn to fetch water from the riverlands. Her hands, once soft, grew strong and scarred. She learned the names of trees, the moods of the forest, the language of silence. She sat with elders without speaking, listening until her heart understood. When children cried, she carried them. When elders walked slowly, she waited. And she never shouted again. Mama Zawadi watched her from a distance, saying little. Wisdom did not rush. One evening, as the firelight danced and the air smelled of rain, Mama Zawadi called Nalia to sit beside her. "You have learned to serve," Mama Zawadi said. "Now you must learn to lead without noise." Nalia bowed her head. "I'm still learning." Mama Zawadi smiled faintly. "Good." Trouble returned one Harmattan season. A group of strangers arrived from the far towns, men with loud voices, sharp clothes, and empty respect. They demanded land, water, and obedience. They mocked the elders and laughed at the drums. One of them shouted, "Who is in charge here? I want to speak to the manager." The village went silent. Eyes turned to Nalia. The old fear stirred inside her, but it did not control her. She stepped forward calmly. "There is no manager here," she said gently. "Only people, memory, and responsibility." The strangers laughed. Mama Zawadi did not move. Nalia knelt. Not in weakness. In strength. She placed her hand on the earth. "If you wish to speak, speak with respect. If not, leave." The wind rose softly. The drums answered from the distance. The strangers felt it, the unseen weight of the land. One by one, they stepped back. Balance held. That night, the ancestors whispered through dreams. Mama Zawadi dreamed of clear water. Elder Bako dreamed of steady fire. And Nalia dreamed of the mountain. But this time, the path was bright and open. Years later, when Mama Zawadi joined the ancestors, the village mourned for many days. Drums cried. Women wailed. Men lowered their heads. At the burial, Nalia stood quietly, tears flowing freely. Elder Bako placed a hand on her shoulder. "The spirits have chosen their voice." Nalia shook her head. "I'm only a listener." He nodded. "That is why you are ready." Nalia did not rule. She did not command. She guided. Under her care, the village grew strong. Disputes were settled with calm words. Outsiders learned to bow. Children learned respect before pride. And when young people grew loud, she told them a story. She told them about a night when the wind stopped moving. About a woman who shouted for a manager. About a mountain that answered. Fire moral lesson, strong ending. A loud voice may demand power, but only a humble heart is trusted with it. Those who kneel to learn will one day stand to guide. Respect is not taken by shouting, it is earned by listening. The fire crackled softly. The drums faded into peace. And the ancestors rested.